still affecting the present state today. So these historical events needs to be discussed. So, Jeffrey, what will you say to our people concerning the historical evolution of the international system, starting from the Westphalia Treaty?
It's just like the Westphalia Treaty is like the beginning of peace or something like that. Then let's now move the revolution, like in the sense of the constitution, the way they are moving due to experience, like, and then their historical background, and they always like all those. Let us say, for example, now the way the first ever constitution was made, then there was now a mistake due to one kind of
dissatisfaction of some people.
They have to bend it a little. Then that kept going until one was into it
to the present world. No, it's more like the cases that was discussed earlier concerning the Renaissance, and then the Renaissance ending the feudal reign, and then ending into another era, which is the Renaissance itself. And then the Renaissance itself leading into what we call scientific revolution, which is popularly known as industrial revolution, and then which gives the life of Vasco da Gama. It was during the Renaissance period that Vasco da Gama of Portugal discovered the sea routes he was the first man to discover the sea routes that can take one to Asia and other parts of the country like Africa. He was the first person to discover that. After which England now continued from that state. So if during the Renaissance as well, if Vasco da Gama had not discovered the sea route to Asia, India specifically, and the other continents like Africa, there is a possibility that we might not have something like colonization in Africa. And then this is how the international system evolving, and specifically, just as you have said, is now evolved especially from the Westphalian Treaty, because the Westphalian Treaty in 1648 it ended the 30 years religious war, and it also set paths for sovereignty of states. For states having states having the mindset of being sovereign. So that becomes a major milestone for international system and its change. So after the Westphalian system, we have more of like after the Westphalian Treaty, then we head into the imperial era, and then after the imperial era, that is when it was during that the Westphalian Treaty was around 17th century. Then we have the imperial era around 17th to 18th century, and 17th and 18th century, and then we have the imperial era automatically leading to colonization. Automatically leading to colonization between the 19th century. So, and then before the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution, 18th, 19th century, and then we have the colonization, 19th century, before many nations in Africa started gaining independence in the 20th century. But before that 20th century, before the independences of many states, many African states, and Asia in the 20th century, we have the World War I and World War II. These factors are shaping our international system. These factors are dictating the international system. And then after the World War II, we have the creation of UN. The creation of UN, which is the modern global governance. So looking at these factors, before UN coming into play, after the World War One, we have the League of Nations. Because of the fault of League of Nations, and then we had the UN after the World War Two, ending the World War Two. So that was the reason I agree, more like agree with you, that is more like changing, just like our constitution, like taking Nigerian constitution for instance, as it is evolving from Clifford to Richard, from Richard to Macpherson, from Macpherson to Lightweighting, from Lightweighting then to 1960 independent, before 1979, and then we have, so before now we have the present 1999 constitution. So before it's almost relating. If you are going to talk about the 1999 constitution, if you are going to talk about it, there must be academically and educationists, they will definitely trace it back to the usage. So more like aligning it with what you have said. It's more like relating with the international system as discussed. So now, with this international system and the process at which they have evolved, how is it influencing our current world? Ranging from the Westphalian states, the Westphalian Treaty, then the Imperial era, the Industrial Revolution, then talking about the colonization, talking about the World War One, the League of Nations, World War Two, UN creation, and then talking about the independence of many colony states, or many colonies. So, what can you say about that in our current world as well, bro? Yes, its impacts, their destiny.
When we talk about the revolution, we can also talk about the enlightenment. And when we talk about the enlightenment, we're talking about the liberty and freedom given to each state not to interfere into others. After the Treaty of
Westphalia, yes.
So after some kind of organization and some kind of conferences was held in order to maintain the balance of power, which is the sovereignty. So if you take a look at this into this system, the UN are trying to be in a global governance in order to maintain peace and security in the international arena. But when we take a look at the international system as a whole, their structures, their process, rules and order to
Yes, and security
global
council.
world, to a global world, in order to maintain